Gays Against Groomers recently did a sting operation where they had somebody pretending to be a 14-year-old girl claiming to be trans, call Planned Parenthood, who then referred her to a community health care network for help. And they proceeded to tell her that they would give her information on obtaining certain treatments, despite her being underage. She said, I don't want my parents to find out about this. We'll play some...
Do you guys remember being 14?
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah,
it was.
So you didn't want your
grade.
parents to find out about anything that you thought about anything.
Please knock.
Yes.
And you better knock, or you might see me
Oh
fill in
boy!
the blank.
Oh boy!
And then they started knocking.
We have this moment here from again the footage that Gays Against Groomers has posted to Twitter, where the person impersonating a 14-year-old tells the people at the organization that Planned Parenthood referred her to that she is a minor, that she doesn't want her parents to find out, and this is what they say.
Okay, just give me one moment. Not finding anything. Hold on.
And you're sure my mom won't find out?
Yeah, no, Cold Cindy is when we have to put labels on your chart. So as soon as I make this chart, it's gonna be contact by phone only. And then it's just going to be the number you give me. I'm going to put no mail for your address, and then that's it. If anyone ever calls for you, we can't disclose any information if it's not you. You know,
okay.
it's you. I mean,
Because I'm underage.
yeah, understood. But we help underage patients receive care that they need and want, as long as, you know, it's not harmful to oneself. We try to help you out the best we can.
Okay. I'm so nervous. My palms are sweating.
I got you. Right now, but the only thing is, right now I'm already at the end of August looking, and I'm not getting any appointment.
All right, so you guys get the picture here. Basically, this person's underage. They're saying they don't want their parents to know about the treatment that they're seeking out, and this person is saying, don't worry, we won't tell them. It's a code Cindy. Now, I want to point something out, because I'm sure a lot of apologists for Planned Parenthood are going to make the claim that this wasn't Planned Parenthood saying that she should do this. They were just referring her, which is kind of an interesting point, because Planned Parenthood has claimed for decades that they perform mammograms and give women mammograms when they actually don't have a single mammogram on site at any of their clinics. They just refer women to clinics where they can get them. But of course, we know they're going to embrace that double standard and say, no, we weren't actually providing any of this care. We were just telling this person where we could get, or where they could get it. That said, maybe they bite the bullet and they say, this is affirming care. They absolutely needed it. It's abusive and horrible not to give it to them. I also wonder if this organization that she was referred to is going to say, oh, well, when we said we wanted to give her medical care, we're just talking about like medical care that's necessary for her life, which is a dodge that they usually use in order to not acknowledge that they're giving these children hormones that stunt their development to groom them on a path towards mutilation.
Yeah, I mean, the Planned Parenthood at the beginning of recording refers this person, who's obviously an adult posing as a 14-year-old, to the community healthcare network. The community healthcare network, when this person asks, like, I need help, he's like, what do you want specifically? You're like, I just want help. I want, you help. And the operator specifically brings up hormone therapy. So they are all aware of what a minor who identifies as transgender may possibly be seeking out, or they're aware of what specifically to offer. They do mention mental health care as one of the services they provide. They also mention medical intervention in the form of hormones.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting that we would have anyone trying to deny this, right? Like, why, when you have this kind of recording, wouldn't you just double down on, like, well, we're supposed to be doing this? Like, this is where this kind of logic falls apart to me.
That's what happens, right? First they say we're not doing it. Then they say we are doing it and it's good.
Yep.
A similar thing happened when Libs of TikTok called, I forget what the name of the hospital was, but it was a children's hospital. This was last summer in Washington, D.C. Boston was the first thing. And that whole thing was very interesting because Post Millennial did some reporting about what was going on at Boston Children's Hospital. We had the intake forms. We had the forms that said vaginoplasty would be performed on young men at the age of 17. We had these on the actual documentation from Boston Children's Hospital. The one for young women to have phalloplasties, right, was at 18. However, you could get it at 18, which means that there was prep prior to that, probably.
Exactly, before you could consent.
Right. And so what was interesting about that was Libs of TikTok posted that Boston Children's Hospital was doing hysterectomies on minors. And that's what everyone got slammed for, was that she was saying that. We don't have evidence that they weren't necessarily doing that. We only have their word, but they also scrubbed their site. Anyway, so after that, Libs of TikTok, Haya, she called the Washington Children's Hospital. She posed very, very obviously and transparently, actually, if I remember correctly, as a mom seeking to get, sex change for her underage child. And she had a similar experience. She ended up reaching essentially the phone answering person who said, yes, we do that. Right. Who said, like, yes, we can take care of that. We could do, I believe it was double mastectomy kind of stuff like that. And now we have another situation like that. And again, this will come out where they're going to say that this is a good thing to do because
I think so.
Because gender drugs are life-saving. And it's the manipulation of language. We had a mom actually pose, this was like a year or so ago, getting involved with the Trevor Project, posing as a 15-year-old with gender dysphoria. And the same thing happened. The mom was, posing as this 15-year-old girl, the mom was referred to all of these services to get more gender medical services. And when she tried to, at another instance, when she tried to get information on detransitioning, the Trevor Project was decidedly unhelpful and said things like, are you sure that you want to detransition? This sounds like internalized transphobia.
Yep, that's exactly right. So a person can't be like groomed into becoming trans. There's no social contagion there, even though even WPATH admits there is. But when somebody detransitions, that's because the people around them have manipulated them psychologically. They've been groomed into not wanting to be trans, basically.
I think it's interesting with this call too. One of the first things I noticed that it to me, it did not sound like a 14-year-old. Like there's a moment.
It sounded like a South Park character.
Right.
When have you ever heard a 14-year-old talk about how their palms are sweaty?
Yeah, she was like, I'm underage. Like, you don't say that when you're 14.
No, my favorite was they were like, can you spell your email? And this person goes like, M as in Mary, da 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 da. Like, if you're 14, you're not doing that because you've never had to deal with that many calls.
You just keep saying M, waiting for somebody to understand what you're saying.
I think what I noticed about that call is that the guy on the other end of the line was like, as long as it's not harmful to the person. And there's this, I guess the divergence of the whole entire global conversation on this are the chemicals harmful for 14-year-olds or younger or whatever, or are they not?
And I think that's part of the problem is that the information is not clearly presented. Like the risks are not included. And this is true for a lot of prescription medication in the US. But I had someone in my personal life recently tell me, oh, well, top surgery and mastectomies are not the same thing. And I had to be like, what are you talking about?
That's exactly the same thing.
What do you think they're doing? And they're like, no, mastectomy is different. And I was like, what do you think is happening in top surgery? Like there is this
what did they say?
They couldn't explain it. They said you leave part of the breast.
No, you don't.
I don't.
I mean, you end up sometimes
explanation.
it gets botched and you have weird flaps and things. Like I've seen this.
Yeah.
There's different kinds of ways to perform this surgery. There's that gender surgeon in Miami who does it. And
yeeting she loves to laugh about the fact that she's mutilating children.
Actually had a
minors.
TikTok video about how she was only yeeting 4 teats during
and so she was sad about it.
1 week. Poses with these minors, but that doctor has had a number of complications from patients because of the way that she does it, where there's no drainage, and so young women have ended up with rotting flesh on their bodies and had to go to hospitals. Yeah, and the hospitals are like, "You're gonna die. Your flesh is rotting."
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Like, I understand that there is an argument for you have to be conscious of someone's emotional state and we're trying to be compassionate and open-minded and whatever else, and I understand that that's where certain positions on these issues come from, but I think ultimately if you just go back and say like, well, what are the consequences of taking high doses of estrogen, of testosterone, of removing tissue that's naturally occurring in your body, of disrupting the parts of your body that regulate your hormones, like there is no way that there are not costs and consequences. And I think we can all agree in this room that under the age of 18, you are not in a position to make a fully informed decision. And I think part of the problem is that over 18, the information is still not presented ethically and clearly.
Well, exactly. And that's a very important point. There's a lot we can say about these surgical interventions. There's a lot we can say about these hormones, but I really want to flag what you're saying about someone choosing to do this after they're over the age of 18 when they have been told throughout their entire adolescence that this is something they should be doing. We recognize that groomers don't always get physical when the person is underage. Sometimes what happens is a groomer meets somebody who is underage and then they groom them into placing themselves in that role so that when they're 18, they can get together with them. If you have a 40-year-old man who knew a girl when she was 14 and 15 and was talking to her, and then as soon as she turned 18, they started dating, we would recognize that that was grooming even though she was technically legally of age, because we know that if a groomer gets to someone when they're young and more vulnerable, they can try to brainwash them. And so it's a similar phenomenon. If you put a child on these hormones, then even if you're waiting until they're 18 to actually perform the surgical interventions, you've already warped their mind in the direction of embracing that intervention to the point where you couldn't say they've actually consented. Even if you did consent to something like that, it would be wrong because healthy body parts are not meant to be removed and mutilated. But even so, you can't make the argument that it's not grooming just because they waited until the person was over the age of 18 to intervene surgically, because groomers wait until the person they're preying upon is over 18.
I disagree with you when it comes to relationships and things like that. I mean, if a man is 40 and he has a relationship with an 18-year-old girl,
but if he knew her when he was 15 and he's planting seeds at like when she was 15, I'm saying, yeah, we recognize universally that that's grooming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we see stuff like that throughout history. You know, but I don't think that you can make those kind of. You kind of have to meet people where they stand, right? I mean, relationships are weird.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.